I just
Is it working?
don't hear it, but don't see nothing.
Huh. Sorry if you heard that in the background. My dog just knocked something down. Welcome to Broken Not Out. I'm your host, Dave. Joining me today, my co-host is Pete,
What's going on?
and then special guest Dave. Get me same name as I've got now. You screwed it up.
I'll help you.
Dave Chametsky.
There you go.
Dave
Like,
said he's not judging you right now. It's okay. He's just laughing with us. That's all.
it's all,
Y'all didn't laugh with us and laugh at us. So,
yep, that might be
so
late.
well, I wanted to thank you for joining us. I mean, you've got a hell of a resume. Going through some of your stuff, you were the host of Peace, Love, and Bring It Back, which I love the name of that podcast. You've got multiple books out there. You're a mentor. You've got a lot going on. Plus, been on some major like networks and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about like what you've done with all that?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the peace, love, and bring a bat. That's usually what everybody likes. It's not about violence. So peace and love, we all have that definition in our head about. And the bat, you still have to bring your bat. You have to have the balance in your life. And the bat, it's an acronym actually. It's bringing awesome thoughts, which I hope to be able to do today to you and your audience. But if not, you might take me out back and we might see the bat a little differently. But it's about being authentic. It's about the authenticity. Like the person you see in front of you. Look, I've gone through a lot of stuff over the years, and it's shaped me. It's forged me into who I am. But and then I'm sure most of your audience and yourselves have experienced the same thing.
Mhm.
I had a suicide attempt. Obviously, I wasn't good at that. But I would also have had books I've spoken about on the TEDx stage about my suicide attempt. It's one of those things, and I've led in a lot of different ways because one, I'm stubborn and just keep going back. But I also learned from each one of the bad things that have happened to me and learned what I like, what I don't like, and what I need, and the things that might have had to learn the rough way.
Yeah, no, like with my past and that, yeah, I did the same thing. Tried doing it 3 times myself, going through a really bad rough patch. Um, and the things that I've had to live through with my wife and even with my wife and that, we've all went through that. I went through, sorry.
So keep
That's my
going.
wife.
Hi.
Unfortunately, our studio is also our bedroom too, so she was gonna kind of join in that and help out a little bit. She's still getting ready, but yeah, we've been through a lot of that. I mean, I was 18 years in a very abusive relationship. Same with her. She was 16 years with her ex, and everything that you go through in life, like they say, it's either going to kill you or make you stronger. And mentally, it never killed me, but mentally, yeah, it made me stronger. But I did learn with our new relationship, I put up a lot of walls that weren't the healthiest. So in a sense, it did make me stronger, but didn't make me stronger. And I know, and Pete, which I forgot to mention, he's with Pete versus Anxiety. Stop shaking your head. But I know he's been through a lot too. I don't know if you've did any research on us, like well, obviously on me. But
They
No,
said
yeah,
just roughshotted it.
yeah, yeah, so I did. I mean, I checked you out. I mean, that's why I really try to find out, and especially you guys talk about mental health. And look, I guarantee you, everybody who's listening to this has gone through something, right?
Exactly.
Those days that we didn't think we can get through. All my
mhm,
stories, I have lots of stories. Sometimes I'm like, how the hell did I get through all of these days? But I did somehow. Even my suicide attempt, man, I was the happiest guy in the world to do that. I was ready, I was prepared, and then I found out. I was like, man, out of all the things I'm not good at, I'm really not good at that. And which I'm glad about, and
yeah,
that's why I know that darkness. I know what other people have gone through. I might not know your story, and I might not know how you went through it or what you've gone through. I'm not about to say my life was the worst. Sometimes I'm sitting around and I'm like, and your life wasn't so bad. But it doesn't matter what we think, it's how we feel, what we hear in our heads. That's the important part, right? You and I can go
mhm,
through the same exact experience. I was joking with somebody, like a ball game, right? You might root for one team, I root for the other. We're experiencing the same game. You might feel happy if your team won, and you might feel really bad if your team lost. Now, life is a lot heavier than a ball game, and what we do to carry it on, that's really what we do. And then not using our resources. I was able to help other people. I'm sure a lot of people, I don't know about yourselves, and I'd love to hear that. I'm sure you could help everybody. I'm sure if Pete called you, "Hey man, I need help," you would do anything to help Pete and vice versa. But
mhm,
how many times are you gonna help yourself? Are you gonna do that? And I didn't help myself. I knew the answers for other people, but I wasn't able to help myself because I didn't want to at that time. And now I know why I need to do it more. And we need to stop this horrible stigmas around, substance abuse, around mental wellness. Man, I don't care. Tease me all the time about, a lot of things. And they're like, come on, Mary, stop with all that, that touchy feely stuff. I'm like, hell, man, that's who I am. That goes back to that bat, right? Be authentic today. I'm going to be who I am. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Yeah.
I'll give you that
mhm.
no matter what, you're gonna know where I stand. And that's why when I saw you guys and looking for some guests, and I'm like, mental wellness, man, I'm all in that. That if one person, if you have two guests, if you have your audience is of two people, and one of them heard something I said that resonated, that's a win, man. I
Yep.
love talking about this.
Yeah, no, I
And
agree
I'm
with you,
like,
Dave, 100%, because that's the way my show is too. Is like that's what I set out to be. Was that if you could touch the one person's heart, well, you've already done something there, you know. And when I started my show, it was just like it was my own journey at first, and then it evolved into just a safe space for everybody to come talk to me about things. And then we've had some pretty crazy conversations on the show where we've taken some left turns with some people, and things like that. But when you get in that space, you got to be prepared for these kind of things to come up, and suicide definitely, because I'm a survivor twice now as myself. The last one, my wife basically told me make her the reason why. It's like, okay, well, cool. At least now I got a reason for it. I'll be sure to title you in the note and everything.
No, you get credit as your footnote. Okay, great.
Right?
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
but that's one of the things is when we're here and talking about it. I mean, I know growing up, you can't talk about that, right? It was us growing up, even as ball players, right? Rub it off, put some dirt on it, all that stuff, and you know,
mhm,
strength. Actually, I think it takes more strength to talk about it and talk about our struggles, and then maybe I come up with a solution that you might not have thought of. I didn't know, and it's the way we carry it. I'm sure we all go shopping, and you carry all your bags back after food shopping. And guess what? If you don't, you could also have the opportunity to carry it once at a time. You got to carry it more strongly. Same thing with all of the stresses we go through is the ability to just figuring those things out. How do we carry those things and moving forward? And how we carry it is what helps us going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all really great points too.
so I'll just shut my door real quick.
It's okay.
But I mean, like my show, how it started, it was actually just a blog that I was doing and to kind of help get some stuff out. And after a while, it's turned into now this. And I mean, I've had Pete on the show as a guest and vice versa and stuff like that, and it's helped out so much, and if you can open up to get one person to even open up, I mean, it helps out because and like I've put on my shows, if anybody's out there, even if I don't know you and you message me, I'll give you my phone number. We can sit and talk. I'll sit and listen to you if you have any issues, have anything going on, because I'd rather be that voice that helps pull you back from the edge rather than be like, oh crap, that person, is gone now. And just as simple, somebody just listening to them, not
Yeah.
necessarily giving them advice, but just listening to them and just saying, hey man, I get it. That saves a lot. And, that could bring
100
that person back.
Yeah, 100%. You just keep showing up as who you are, and you do your best, and or get them right. You have to sit with them, the person, and talk about them. That's how you build close friendships. It's not, what have you done for me lately? It's who's been there in the worst times of your life, and who hasn't decided to walk away or leave. That's the really
Hmm.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, very true, very true. I always use the thing too is like if you were to disappear for a week, how many people be looking for you? And then you could really see who your real friends are because the real ones will check in to see if you're okay. If you're really silent, not saying anything, not doing anything, you know, like with TikTok or whatever, I was doing a lot of that, and I stopped just to do an experiment to see how many people actually asked me what was going on, and it showed who your real friends are because at the end of the day, it's like who's checking in on you. Dave checked on me too because he was like, I hadn't heard much from you. You doing okay? I heard about some other stuff, and I was like, yeah, because he had found out I had called 988 a couple weeks ago, because I was going through rough, it's like I just called, used my resources and things like that. But that's when you really find out who your real people are though, because it's like if you disappear, how many people are gonna go check in you? Because nobody checks in on the person that checks on everybody else though. I
Right.
think it's the biggest thing too.
Yeah, that is a difficult part is, you care about everybody else and how many other people come back at you to check on you. I've experienced some of that as well. We all do, and that's why we need to talk about it to remind ourselves to hear, oh man, I haven't heard from David in a little while. I haven't heard from Pete in a little while. Let me check on them. Like I'm notorious for sending a text at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and just be like, dude, I haven't spoken to you in a while. Sorry if it's late, you know, pop, and that way they wake up to it, and, some friends then come that don't ever like, if you need me, I have this some people keep their phone in their room, and some people don't, and, you learn which friends you could do that to. What are the boundaries? Knowing again, one of the other stories of the bat is knowing your boundaries and knowing, what that sweet spot is. So, maybe pizza, a guy, don't bother me unless it's an emergency after 10 o'clock. And some people are like, Dave, like, you might be like, hey man, anytime, anywhere, and or vice versa, or both of
Hmm.
you are an anytime type of guy. But I've had friends who are like, man, don't text me just saying hi at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I go, it's not it's not a booty call. I know, I just want to check on you. It's when I think of you, I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that's just equally as important. So sometimes I have some friends who are like, "Just don't text me like that in the morning, man. It just scares me." It's just so I then now leave a message for myself, like a note in the morning. Reach out to Pete, reach out to Dave, and then I'm like, "All right," so I won't bother them at night because they'll beat me up, or or want to. Unless it's an
I'm
emergency, right?
I'm the same way, Dave. I'm messaging people in the middle of the night. I usually work nights, so I'm overnight, so I'm awake all night working and stuff. So I'm constantly going. And people were asking me that during season one of the show, like, "Do you ever sleep?" I'm like, "No, I really wasn't." So I was constantly messaging people, and people were like, "Dude, what are you doing? It's like 2 in the morning." Well, I'm at work right now. What? What are you doing? Like I keep most
I think
chats
I,
active. I'm that guy that's in the chat keeping it active amongst our group messages. Usually I'm the
I
guy
think my
that's
wife
messaging
asked you
everybody.
that. When do you sleep?
Never, never. We've already discovered that. Dr. Lee and I had already talked about that. Dave, I had the FBI sleep expert come on the show during season one. She literally gave me a lecture live on the show, and she's like, "Well, Pete, you should be sleeping more." And I'm just like, "Oh God, it's like your mother giving you a lecture about it." But she's not wrong, though. Now I prioritize my sleep more, and it's better. But before it was just like I was never sleeping, and people are asking me that because I was taking a lot of caffeine in too, and they're like, "Do you ever sleep?" No, I got my power right here, and I hold like an energy drink on the
Yeah.
screen, and they all start cringing. They're like, "No," I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, well, it's that self-care is knowing it, again, when
hmm
I attempted my suicide, I could help everybody, with great resources and things like that, but I wasn't using it myself. So, not only do we need to know our resources, but how we help ourselves and make sure that helping ourselves that should really be the first task. I
yeah,
didn't
Mhm.
know that. I'd always be worried about everybody else and not worried about Dave. Dave could handle it. I knew what Dave felt like, but I didn't know really until I became more self-aware what Dave really felt because, like the pains and aches sometimes we have, that somatic feelings really kind of weigh down on us, but we don't realize it. It just becomes so natural, right? It's that, hey, why do you keep banging your head against the wall? Oh, but it feels good. I don't know it's gonna feel like when I stop.
yeah,
So you know that's how I sometimes explain mental wellness. It's not because I like to behave the way I do. Either I'm not aware of it until it's brought to my attention, and then sometimes you just don't know how. You have to reprogram your brain.
yeah." Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that though, or they don't use these things. We have cell phones to just kind of research and things. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
we have the all the information at our fingertips, but nobody's using it though. It's like everybody wants to judge somebody instead of looking up what people have, like BPD, bipolar, any of these things. You can literally just Google it, and it gives you some kind of explanation to what it is these individuals are dealing with. And I feel like a lot of times you'll see people demonize certain mental health disorders, and it's just because they don't take the time to listen. It's like you had time to search on the internet for everything else, watch that funny cat video on YouTube, but you can't take 5 minutes and look up what it is this person deals with, get a better idea of maybe understand like what their side of the coin is like. And I feel like that's where we fall short, is that not enough people take that time to look up and understand these things. So then they demonize these people as crazy and all these other things. And it's just like it's not the case. Like if you took 5 minutes to realize that what these individuals are dealing with, it's something they deal with every day. It's not like they're just doing it to be weird or odd. It's what they deal with. But like I said, we have these great cell phones, but we don't use them for what they should do. Like, we
Yeah.
could take 5 minutes,
Mhm.
Google something, and you could look at whatever and find some kind of information out there. And then that's the thing I always try to tell people too, is like always look at it from the other side of the coin of what these guys are dealing with. You may not understand completely, but at least look into what they're dealing with. Little 5 minutes of research gives you a hell of a lot better perspective than going and going, well, you're crazy, or you need to go to a hospital and make all these other jokes that you don't realize are not really helping the situation.
No, 100%, and it's that labeling. That's
Mhm.
where I work on when I do a lot of speaking to remove the stigmas, right? Crazy and
Mhm.
in fact, right after my suicide attempt, somebody was like, "You're crazy, you're white trash, you're
Mm.
this, you're that," and, that actually was one of the moments that I was like, "Hell no." Well, I use other language, but, I wanna be respectful to you guys,
Yeah,
but
you're fine. You can say what you want.
it was one of those moments of like, "Hell no. You can think like that's what I am. That's from your uneducated point of view, but I know who I am."
Yeah.
And like I said, and that's what we also have to know. Most of the tricks in life is it's not about us. That if you guys are talking even if you're talking about me, it might not be. It's just something that you're observing within yourself or something, and that's really powerful when you go, "Oh man, Pete doesn't like me, Dave doesn't like me," and then you're like, "Nah, it's really about me. Dave doesn't like, and no, what I'm feeling." And we don't know what other people are feeling. We only know
Mhm.
from
Exactly.
our perspective, and that doesn't mean it's correct. It just means it's how we see things. That really is how a lot of it that's why whenever I sit with somebody, I try to listen to what they say and their story, so that way they can sort of explain it to me if they're able to, or at least I try to hear those little in between conversations that they're not really saying, but they are giving me the advice and the knowledge that I needed to have.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I know, like, it was taboo up until a few years ago to even talk about this stuff. Because I mean, you go back, I mean, even in, like, the '80s and some of the '90s and stuff, it was kinda swept under the rug and, you know Man, the whole thing with men too, especially, is we weren't supposed to let out our feelings. We weren't supposed to talk about what was bothering us. You're supposed to bury it in. Men don't cry, don't show anything. And, you know, the more of that went on, the more it's like you see more men go through that mental trauma, and that's when they would do something to themselves or, something to others. And it was never a good thing. And now, luckily, in the past few years, it's been brought more to light, and it's not, you're a baby or whatnot for talking about how you actually feel. It's a good thing to kind of let it out, because that way you're not building it up inside. You're not going to explode. You're not going to say go postal or something like that. So, um, and going through like what you've been through, and going through all of it, it's just, you've done a lot of work, and especially with seeing your stuff on, like, ABC and CNN and Fox and all that, and then you also have a system too called the, S Stand or Finding Your Path system, and I was kinda doing some reading to that. And, how did you come up with, like, the staying on your or finding your path?
Well, I like acronyms, truthfully. The PATH stands for Personal Attitudes Towards Happiness. So it's we all have that journey. So like my book behind me, it was the first solo book I published. But we have the beginning part of our journey, right? We're born, and those experiences really are some of our foundations in life. Then we get caught. A lot of times there's obstacles, even through the birth and growing up, and finding the right path for ourselves is so hard. We think we know it, right? My dad's passed, but guess what? He died. He got a lot smarter after he passed than he was when he was alive. As a young kid, I knew all the answers. And as I've gotten older, some of the lessons he taught, it might not have been the right way to teach a lesson, but the the lesson was the right lesson. And I think that's what I talk about as a path, is because I know how to do certain things. Now there are other ways to do it, other paths, and only your path you're gonna be able to walk. Ram Dass, a famous metaphysical guy, he says we walk each other home. We're on a path. You and I right now are walking the path for the next hour or so together. But afterwards, hopefully, I've lent something to your path that you could take away, and something that you've given me to take on my path. And that's really what I mean by the path. It's what's going to bring you towards happiness. What's going to bring you to your peace and love moments, the things that are gonna keep you when there used to be this commercial, for Fidelity, about how to get you to save and stuff like that, stay on that green line. Well,
Mhm.
the same thing goes like that for life, is what's gonna keep you in that happiness. Yeah, we could stray, and we've all strayed way off that path and gotten lost. But when we get back on that path, we know we're on the right path, and that leads us to the greatest things that come to us.
I love that though. Yeah, I love those old commercials though. A lot of them were pretty funny like that. I do remember that Fidelity one where they're just following the green path. Oh wait, that doesn't go there. Then they're just falling it on the ground. I
Yep.
started laughing hysterically when you said that, because I'm like, yeah, I remember those, because I would like to reference
Yep.
a lot of commercials too sometimes to people, because the '90s were always interesting for all those interesting commercials they had of just different crap they were posting out on us. Or Billy Mays was like our basically our overnight uncle, because he was there up with you late night. Hey guys, it's Billy Mays. He's trying to sell you some
Right.
whatever he's wanted to put in there. You know what I mean? Like, you're up at 2 a.m. talking to Billy Mays, like, he can actually hear you, and things like that too. But I think that's all really great points. So
Mhm.
Yeah, it's where we get our advice from, right? Well, when you needed something, late at night, when you were
mhm.
down and coming home, you're like, "Oh my god, that's a great thing," right? The chamois cloth, or
Yeah, yeah, the shit.
the other things that we saw, right?
I remember
Uh, you know
remember set it and forget it, the Showtime rotisserie oven. The guy was just like, set it and forget it. And you're just sitting there
yeah,
watching this
right?
commercial on
Great
repeat,
advice. All
you
of
know?
those are great advice, and you're like, "Man, I need one of those."
Exactly. That's the power of marketing when you think about it, because that's how they get you a lot of times. They're trying to solve that issue of what it is they can fix for you. Hey, listen, I can fix your problem in 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Tell me more about it. Or, hey, listen, you can make $1 million in 5 minutes doing this. And everybody's like, okay, let me go do it. And then they're like, oh, I got scammed. Well, yeah, think about what they're selling, telling you they can fix your problem in 5 minutes. Like, what do you mean?
Well,
Like,
they made the
you
money.
know, you know what I
Right,
mean? It's
and
like
you have to
it's
look
how
at where
good you
you're
sell
coming
it to
from.
people, though.
Yeah, you have to look at it where you're coming from. I mean, you can be healed in 5 minutes. You can get all those things in 5 minutes, but not everything is gonna be a
Yeah.
5 minute. And that's where, back in the day, we still wanted that. Was like the beginning of fast food and all of that immediate before our phones and things like that. And now we have really no attention span. So 5 minutes, man. People, what are you talking about? It's gonna take me 5 minutes. I don't want to wait 5 minutes. Chat GPT. I'm gonna get it in 30 seconds,
Oh
and not
God,
knowing
yes.
that that's impersonal and that those answers are sort of the canned answers. And that's why being our most authentic selves and having that confidence to be our most authentic selves really makes a difference to everything we do.
Yeah, especially being in the space that we're in too,
Yep.
because a lot of people that listen to these kind of shows are all listening for that, and they're always looking for some reason to poke a hole in it because they're like, "Well, how authentic is this guy? He says one thing, but what is he like off there?" And I know when I started my show, my ex was very big support about that. She was like, "If you're gonna get into this space, I need you to understand you need to be very authentic. You can't just be lying to people. You need to be
Hmm.
straight honest." So at first, it was a little hard for me to open up, but then I decided one day I got up and said, "You know what? Fuck it, I'm just gonna let it go." So I just unzipped everything and just laid it all out and told everybody about everything I've been dealing with. Like the first season of the show, I was so depressed. I never left the room which I was recording in until later in the day. Like I'd go in there, I'd turn off the lights, it's completely black in there. And I was getting swallowed by my depression little by little. And no one knew I was struggling, and it was hard because everybody else was like we said, no one worries about the person that worries about everybody else. And then people are asking about my sleep. Like, oh, let's not worry about my sleep. It's for the fact that I'm swallowing in depression right now and I'm on the verge of killing myself. I think that's what we need to worry about. My sleep can come second, but at this point, I think we need to be worried about why it is I don't leave this room until later on. Like I literally get up and leave, go to the other room, so my wife at the time wouldn't know that I was still in that room the whole time, and things like that too. And it was really bad. And then when people found out, they're like, "Oh, we didn't know." And that's a common answer for a lot of times. A lot of people don't know you because you don't know how
Yep.
bad people are struggling.
Well, I think part of it is you don't know. You wouldn't know. So the day before I attempted suicide, I went into a business meeting to try to pitch a job that I wanted, and I nailed it, man. I did really well, and then I already knew in the back of my mind. So we don't know what's going on. That goes back to that. We don't know what's going on in somebody
Hmm.
else's mind.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
like now, uh, I sort of like sometimes sitting by myself and enjoying being by myself. But years ago, man, that was a torture. That was a penalty that if I had to do that, and people didn't know the difference. I'd be calling up people, and like now I'm like, all right, I got plenty of stuff to do, and I think that's where we have to learn a lot more about ourselves and also reach out to when we see patterns building in our lives. When we see those patterns, and that is that more self-awareness. And, it's not easy. It's really not easy, but when you start doing it, then you could start doing it. I mean, so we talk about that 5 minute. I tell people I can heal you in a half hour. Not completely. I'm not. I don't know all of your problems, but I know I can heal one thing in a few minutes. And it's this thing that I want to just teach you guys. It's a way to reset yourself. So automatically, whenever you're feeling any of that, I want you just to touch yourself in a special way. Um, but it's just rubbing your hands nice and slow in a circular motion, like washing your hands. We all wash our hands or hope to, uh, and that'll create delta waves, the brain waves that we use when we go to sleep. And from there, there's a lot of magic that can get done. We can have you overcome some of the traumas that you might have experienced in life, but that'll always reset yourself by creating those delta waves. And so
Oh,
I always teach that and I learned that. I mean, I went to therapy. I was in so much pain at one point. I was willing to try anything. So the guy walks in and goes, "All right, I want you to rub your hands, rub your shoulders, rub your forehead." I'm
Yeah.
like, "All right, you're a little. It's a little out there for me. That's not going to be for me." And he goes, "Would you try it?" But I was in so much pain, and now when I talk about it, that's why I say I'm going to teach you how to touch yourself in a special way and make you feel good. Obviously, there's other meanings for that, but I'm going to make sure that we heal you to do that. You got it. Okay.
You
Yeah,
well,
so
Dave, I've heard this before though because I interviewed what's her name? Hillary. I can't think of her last names now, but she runs hysterically speaking. She was actually teaching me the same thing. We in fact talked about the same thing. She was like, rub your hands together, then work it with your and all the same thing. So
Yeah,
like
okay, right,
instantly I
yeah.
remember that conversation
Yep.
because she was a big,
Yeah,
big
so she
person about
probably
that.
yeah, she probably, is havening.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe
That's
Hillary Duff.
exactly what I was thinking the
Yep,
term.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it is. Yeah, Hillary Duff, right? Yeah, I know Hillary. Um, and, I was one of the OG, I actually got certified in havening. I'm one of the
Oh,
first
cool.
8 people in the world to be certified, and I've worked with veterans, I've worked with people, and, it's really special to be able to do that and be involved, and, again, I started it for me. When I started see the changes that came in from me, and then I was able to, as part of certification, you have to work with 30 people. So I started working with, friends. Hey, man, you don't have to, and you don't have to tell the magic. And I don't know how everybody does it. I don't need to know your problems. I don't need to know what you're experiencing, just that you identify it. A lot of people are like, man, I don't want to tell you my story. Like, I don't want to know your story. I want to help you. In fact, one of the people, I don't use her name, but one of the 30 people was one of my friends who I knew. And she goes, you can't ever ask me what I'm going to talk about. Okay, sure. Never gonna ask you. You're my friend. I'm here to support you. And long story, and she allows me to share this part of the story. So afterwards, she was healed, and she says, "I was sexually abused," and I go, "I didn't know." I go, "Thank you for sharing." Because anytime somebody shares something very personal, you always want to say thank you, right? Nobody has to. I don't. You guys didn't have to share about your suicide attempts, and I appreciate you did, but, that's what brings us together, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know. I'm sorry." She goes, "I feel differently about it now." After doing the havening and knowing that, and she goes, "Would you work with me a little bit more?" I go, "You're my friend. Of course I will." And, we were able to clear up some of the other issues at other times, but that's what it is finding the right tools for you. Now, some people will never ever try havening. I'm not rubbing myself, I'm not touching myself. Don't get me to do any of that weird stuff. That's not gonna work. Okay, same thing with hypnosis. I learned hypnosis, and you know, people are like, "Nah, that's crazy. I don't want to cluck like a chicken." I'm like, "Well, I could make you cluck like a chicken. I don't want to do that. I want to help you." And it's been crazy. The experience I've had, the tools that now I have in my toolbox, and that I had then also, they're priceless.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
hypnosis
know
is an interesting one.
my wife does that too. She'll, when she finds something really soft, it's a comforting for her,
Mhm.
and she'll, like, kinda rub her face and stuff like that, and I know, like, she's been through a lot of that, like you were saying, with, like, the sexual abuse and stuff like that, and I know from dealing with her on that, there's times where, she's fine with me being close and touching her, but then there's times where, like, it'll come back a little bit and she'll, like, jump if I touch her and stuff, and she's like, "It's not you, it's me still working through this," and she's been fighting a long road trying to get all through that, and I mean, I've been really, um, I help with motivating her with that, like, she helps motivate me with stuff because, I mean, when we first got together, I didn't let anything out, and it was pretty much I'd let things build and build and build. Finally, I
Right.
would just explode. I mean, I didn't get physical or anything, but it was just a point where like, I'd lose my voice for a couple days because I was pretty much just letting everything out, and thanks to my wife, she's helped me with that. And I'm unfortunately right now, when I do start to kind of get in those low things, she's the one that takes the brunt of it. And she's like, I know you're not meaning, to yell at me and stuff like that, but you've got to learn to kind of let more stuff out before it gets to this point and trying to say, yeah, I realize that. And then we both kind of have that issue at times. There's times where she'll explode because it's just, we have, five boys here and all of them have some type of disability in a way, some from minor to one that has rare form of Down syndrome. And he's
Wow.
19 and, acts like he's 4 years old most of the time because that's how it is. And between them not wanting to listen to times or do their chores, and it gets frustrating. It's like her and I, we don't have any issues between the two of us. It's usually when her and I are getting frustrated with the kids, we'll kind of raise our voice to each other. And it's not that we're fighting with each other, we're just letting it out. And, sometimes, yeah, it might not look like the healthiest from somebody looking, outside looking in. But for us, it does help us kind of get that stress out because after about an hour or so, we're both like, oh, cool, then we're good. And, but we're both working on ways to eliminate that getting way up stressful and or kind of letting it out ahead of time. And that goes with our past traumas too, because my ex are very abusive, very physical, and I never lay a hand on her. I mean I had it so bad one time where I had to call the cops and the cop, after about 3 or 4 times the cops showing up, they're like, how come you've never hit her? It's like, well, she's not worth going to jail for.
Right, yeah.
But and I mean, my wife, she got it where if they were fighting, I mean, her ex, busted her face and she's had to have reconstructive surgery. And my wife's, a 5 foot tall little redhead, so she's pretty feisty when she wants to be, but
Oh, she
she's
is, Dave. Trust me. The three of us were together recording, and we were just sitting there picking on her, and you could just tell the look in her eyes. She says that it wasn't, but she gave us that look like if you all don't stop, I'm gonna punch both of you all, But yeah, Ashley, she's awesome though. Like, and she takes a lot from me and Dave when we were with her too, because we like to mess around with her a lot of times. But Dave, I did want to point out the fact I love how you can make jokes about your mental health, because a lot of people get uncomfortable in those situations though. But I met a comedian. That's what he actually teaches people. He literally sits there and he teaches how to make fun of yourself and your own mental health jokes and things about you. And they get pretty dark sometimes, but it's like you understand what's going on. And that's great because like I like to make like some kind of jokes, but people think they're too dark. And it's like, no, I don't think you understand what's going on here. Like this is me just dealing with what I deal with. Sometimes the thoughts in my head aren't fun, and I'll make jokes about it just to make light of it to, get it out of my head. Or I'll stand there and I'll talk to myself and people think I'm having a conversation with myself, but I'm just taking the things out of my head and just like getting them out of there instead of them rattling around.
Well, it's coping mechanisms, and probably the same comedian, Frank King. Frank's awesome.
Yeah,
I
Frank's
don't know.
awesome too, but his name is Dave
Mhm.
Morrow. But Dave teaches people how to do it. He has a whole class about it. But Frank is great
Okay.
too, though. But
Yeah,
I
no,
think
okay.
it's great that people can make
I've
jokes
done some
about it, though.
stand-up, that's how I met Frank, but it's
Okay.
coping mechanism. So even, Dave, when you're the stresses, right? It's we get frustrated. What do we do? I can't imagine having 5 boys and, the just the frustrations. Forget about all the quirks
Jesus,
that
yeah.
everybody has, right? At one point, I had, 4 daughters, through a marriage, and, I had 4 daughters all through teenage, and I'm like, "Man, how do I not pull
You
my hair
poor
out?"
guy.
And at that time, I raised my voice a lot, right? Sometimes we raise our voice inappropriately, and because it's, "Hey, man, you're frustrated. You wanna be heard. There's a lot of things that we do. Violence is never an answer. That's why,
No.
when I first had the podcast and the peace, love, and bring a bat, one of my friends was like, "Man, women are gonna hate your episodes. They're not gonna wanna do that. And don't." I had people say, don't tell them you're Uncle Dave. Don't tell them this. You don't tell them that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want them to know all parts of me. Uncle Dave, man, that's a story that I have when I worked in the recovery space where we were telling a story in front of a senator, and some mothers were talking about their children who had passed away from overdose, and I see the senator kind of tune out, and I'm like, no, 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 we're here. This is why we're here, to not only hear these stories, but to get funding and things like that. And the woman who
Mhm.
I cut off was upset, but I eventually spoke to her. I said, "I'll hear your story anytime you want." But we needed at that moment to make sure that they understood why we got there. We weren't there to tell story time. This wasn't cookies and milk and stuff like that. We were coming up to make sure funding gets to help people, substance
Yeah.
disease and overcoming those things. So there's times that being more loud is okay, but any of those things are all that you both mentioned are coping mechanisms. I laugh about it because now I'm secure in it. I wasn't always secure in it,
Yeah.
and I want to when I make the joke, I don't make a joke that suicide or anything like that is is a funny subject. It's not a funny subject, but if I make you laugh, it lessens the energy. It lessens
Mhm.
the tension that even if somebody who's gone through it, while I don't know about either one of your experiences, but you at least know that one, I did it, and there's a little humor in it.
Mhm.
If we could find the humor, we can also find the healing that we both need.
Yep.
That we all need
Yeah,
within it.
exactly. Couldn't say it any better myself, Dave. Yeah, that's what I think. But like I said, I make some jokes
Mhm.
sometimes, and people find them a little outrageous, but they don't understand like what I deal with. I told them, I'm like, if I told you the thoughts that go in my head most days, a lot of you all would just be like checking yourselves in because you couldn't handle them. And I tell them that very nicely. I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest with you. Some of you all just couldn't handle this conversation, and it's okay because that's why I don't tell them because it's like you don't understand. Like you think I'm being rude or inappropriate, but you don't understand that these are what I'm doing with this. And when you're
Yep.
trying to explain to people that have no idea what they're even dealing with, it's hard. But people that get it understand what you're doing though. They get the fact that, that you're doing what you need to do to get by. And some days it was just like some jokes I'd make or just offhanded, but people just like, and then when it comes to suicide especially, I would make jokes to people that could understand the context of the conversation. There's a guy and I used to work with. We'd had some like really interesting conversation, but we got it though. We were just, making inappropriate jokes to each other, things that you would never say to most people, and things like that too. But it was because we understood, on that level. And it's the same thing with like when you banter with people, especially when it comes to sports. I love riling up these Dallas Cowboy fans out here, Dave. I tell you what, I give them hell like no tomorrow, but they get it. A lot of the people I've talked to, they understand. Everybody looking on the outside in are thinking we're arguing, but we're not. We're having a great time,
Yep.
And me and this older gentleman, we always go at it all the time, every season, and we're always talking shit to each other all the time. But it's out of fun. He's like, we get it, He's like, I get it, you get it. That's all matters. Because some guy on the outside was listening and tried to jump in and got all offended, and he's like, wait, you're not understanding. We're this is not us arguing. We're having just a
Yep.
playful banter between the two of us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, if you can laugh at it, the way the mindset is, if you hear something funny, your brain soaks that in more than if you're sitting there listening to something serious. Because if
Exactly.
you're listening to something serious, there's a good chance that, like you said, the senator was doing was kind of zoning out. Where if you hear something funny, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to remember that. And then that's something that you do take away and bring back to other people. Because if they do understand what is going on, then that joke does, then it is funny because,
Yeah.
like I tell my kids and that, because I'll do something stupid and I'll laugh at myself, and they'll laugh at me and they're like, okay, you're cool with that. But if they do something stupid, I kind of laugh at them and they get mad. And it's like, you know what? If you can't laugh at yourself, you should not laugh at other people. And I
Exactly.
mean, I've
Exactly.
done some stupid stuff where it's like, "Oh my god, why did I do that?" and laugh, and I mean, I'll laugh my wife has no problem laughing at me when I do something stupid,
Oh my
so when she
goodness.
does something, I kinda laugh at her and give her crap, and we go back and forth because I mean, she sideswiped my truck with her van, and I'm still giving her crap about it, and that was about a year ago, and it's just funny because she'll come close to something, it's like,
Remind me to
"Dad, you're
tell
gonna
you
hit."
about the I'll have to tell you about the time of the hash brown holder thing, man. I'm telling you, Dave, you got to hear about that one. There's this guy I worked with. I'll just tell you right now. This story of this guy I worked with. Okay, I tell people today this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody do. Okay, so we work in a gas station that has like a pizza area kind of thing. So we have like a little kitchen. All right, so this guy takes the hash brown holder, puts it in the pizza oven, and I'm standing there looking at the register. I'm looking over, and I could see the shadow of it because the light in the oven's on. I said, "Hey, listen, you want to see something totally stupid? I'm going to show you." So this guy at the counter I was laughing with, and the guy in the kitchen's a friend of mine, and we just give him a hard time. And I was like, hey, do me a favor, open that thing. I said, guarantee you put the hash brown holder in that oven. Watch. And know what he did? Open the door. And to this day, he never lives it down. Like, we give him hell about it all day. But it was just what we do though. And that's just the personality I have. Like people don't understand it, but a lot of people tell them people like that say, listen, wait, I said, they just say, understand. Pete just likes to give you a hard time because he can. That's all, man. He likes to give jokes and joke around people and things like that. It's not that he's trying to pick on you. He's just trying to make it a little more, make it a little more, fun to be at work. You know what I mean? Because we got to be here anyways. We might as well make it a good time. And
Sure.
things like that. And I couldn't tell you the countless amount of conversations we've had at 2 in the morning. It's just random things we come up with. So, but yeah. I was thinking about that as he was saying that. I was like, yeah, I got to tell the hash brown story. Like to this day, it's a legendary story. Every time he comes in, I said, have you met the winner of the dumbest thing ever done in this story? And he starts laughing every time I tell him. He's like, oh God, you're never going to live this down. I'm like, no, man, you're never living this one down. I'm telling you right now.
So when
Yeah,
you do, oh, go ahead.
I guess that's one of those things that, again, when you're in that community,
Hmm.
you can make fun of it, right? When you know somebody, when you're close to somebody, you can make fun of that. But if somebody else walked in and started making fun of that guy, you'd probably jump out like, "Hey, leave him alone." That's the connections that we all have, and putting it out there, and we
Yeah.
have that. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Men, when we get together, right? We'll talk some shit and call each other names, but don't you dare walk into some place else and call, one of my friends another name, 'cause then we have some words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, me and my best friend Dave, we say some horrible things to each other, but at the end of the day, if I were to call and tell him I needed help, he'd answer the phone. He knows if I'm calling him at 2 in the morning, that 2 in the morning call is a serious call. I'm not just calling to call him to wake him up and see what he's doing because he's in California, so I have to remember he's 2 hours behind me. So when I call him, so he knows if I'm calling him at my time early in the morning, his time, kind of in the early in the morning, he knows it's a serious call though. But yeah, we say some horrible things. And I like to reference Call of Duty lobbies a lot of times too, because people don't understand the things that we used to say to each other in those things. God,
Yeah.
they would record them for some people, but they got worse than that. The things you'd say to each other, the horrible things we'd say to each other. And at the end of the day, it was just all of us having just banter, but we understood that. Some people that didn't, you could tell they get like really worked up and start. I'm like, dude, we're all just joking, man. It's just
Yep.
fun. We're all playing a game. We're having a good time. We're just horsing around with things. But then the other people will take it and get malicious, and it's like, yeah, we gotta oust you now. Sorry, man. We all gotta mute you because we can't be a part of this conversation. And then you learn what is my boss always tell me. She says, always listen, always think of your audience. Make sure you choose the right audience for what you're saying. Because people don't, not everybody's okay with what you're going to say next. I was like, yeah. So I've learned that over the years that I've just to learn my people that can handle things, what to ask certain questions. I like just playfully joke with them a little bit at first. And a lot of these guys that have come in into where I work have been there for like, God, the whole time. I've been almost 5 years and they've been there with me for 5 years. So we've come to know each other on like for personal levels. Like these guys at first, we didn't know anything about each other. Now we know each other about each other's families, anything we're going through, things like that. Hey, oh, I lost my mom, and things like that. We're talking about these kind of things like, and then everybody wonders why if I'm not up there and then they're there and then these guys don't talk to them the same way. It's like, because you haven't earned their respect. I've been there for 4 years. I've been seeing these guys every day. I've been talking to them every single day. I've been putting the time with them to, understand who they are as a person, and then you just jump in there and think they're going to just talk to you the same way. They're really not because they don't trust you yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a know, like, trust, right? No matter what we do, in our small communities and the people who we can know, like, and trust, well, that becomes the most important thing that we go through.
Well, when you
Yeah.
do your TED Talks and stuff like that, is this the stuff that you usually talk to, like, or talk about, or is it more serious? Or I mean, how do you go about when you're actually in front of people giving your seminars?
Yeah, so with the TEDx, that was about my suicide attempt, that we all have a phoenix within ourselves, and, the phoenix is all over, but there's times I don't always go that dark. It depends on what the audience needs or what I'm being asked to speak about. So, but I always try to teach something from the stage, not just speak at people. That's entertainment. Like I have a talk that says, "Find the R in your heart." And using our words, resilience, reflection, and things like that, and what you can learn from it. And then, I ask you guys, what are the R words in your life that you think, it could be a relationship. It might be,
Hmm.
what makes you. So, there's a lot of R's and we play with it. And then so it depends on the stage, depends on what I want to do. I once got on a stage in this long jacket that looks like it's on fire. It's not on fire, but it has that look. and I start lighting candles. So, but there's a message there. Like, when we look at, especially I come from a Jewish faith, when you look at like the menorah, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
the lead candle, you could picture it during the holidays. Everybody thinks that's the most important candle, and it is not. No, it's important because it lights everybody else up, and that's what I want to do when I'm on a stage. I want to
Yeah.
light everybody else up on a stage like this. I don't want them to think, "Oh, this Dave is great." Yeah, that's okay if you do, but that is entertainment. I want you to know some of the messages I gave you and how it might change to your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
Now,
think
mean,
that's a really great point, though.
that's that's what the podcasts are for. I know, again, I've listened to a couple of your episodes, and you want to teach, you want to bring on guests who can, maybe Pete's not the answer, and maybe Dave, you're not the answer, but maybe with the guest, somebody's going to hear it differently. And I'll give you
uh-huh.
one more example of that. Um, we all know, right? Big Macs are not good for us, right? Eat healthy and all that stuff. Well, about a month ago, I was watching Good Morning America, and Sam Champion said, "Men, we have to go to the cardiologist and check ourselves out." And I'm in great shape. I'm in a round shape. I'd like to be less round. And I said, I'm going to just reach out to a cardiologist, check myself out. 2 weeks later, I got a stent because I had a
Oh,
98% block, which I didn't know. I didn't have the
Mm.
normal pain in my chest. I didn't have, I was a little winded, but I'm like, all right, man, I'm fat. Guilty as charged. But it was really about that. So knowing who we hear the message from, and I knew all that stuff. When I finding out I was 98% blocked, definitely, scared me. They
mhm.
said, "Oh, it's a 98, it's a widowmaker." I go, "Good, I'm not married, so there's gonna be no widowmaker." But it's also now changing my behavior,
Yeah.
knowing it, hearing it, and now I check all myself. I thought I was all good before, but now I'm much better. And in that past month, I've reduced weight, 9 pounds. I'm eating healthier. I can't wait for the next month.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of times that's what we need is a reality check, and then when you're sitting
Yep.
there thinking you're fine, because I mean, I make the same joke, I'm in shape, Pear's a shape, so and without actually going and hearing it from somebody else, I mean, in your mind, you're like, "I'm good," I'm not tingling or, having, feel like I'm gonna faint, but you never know what's definitely going on deep inside somebody or how their mindset is on what they actually think and all this. So, yeah, I mean, it's always good to get checked on all that stuff. And I mean, it's just, yeah, you always got to watch all that stuff. Cause I mean, my wife's always on me about eating healthier because I'm not a big veggie person. I prefer eating meat, and she gives me crap for that. She sneaks vegetables into my food all the time. She thinks I don't notice, but I do. And I mean, it's and like you said, it kind of goes back to like what you're saying in your seminar. That's what I like on that stuff. It's just you're not sitting there saying, "Well, you need to do this, you need to do that." You're actually making it relatable for the common person because if somebody's up there talking about business, like putting it as like a business lecture, I have a hard time with that stuff because I just sit there and, like I said, I start zoning out and things just get boring to me. But when you make it more relatable, that helps to everybody because then they're more willing to sit there and listen and not just start going in their mind and doing their own things. But I and when you mentioned the podcast too, I wanted to bring that up because you've had some amazing guests. Because I was going through listening to a few of your shows, and some of the guests you've had on there are great. And I know, like the last one you did with Kayla, and I can't remember her last name now, but that one was really cool. How she was getting into what she does and all this about the being an artist and everything, and that was cool. But I mean, some of the guests they are like I mean, I know we look for guests, we look for people that are a little different and all that, but I mean, your guests, you've got some you've got a great lineup on your shows.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, even when I found you guys, I looked at it. Like I just was on a call earlier today. I want to do a test call. Make sure who you are. I go, listen. If I'm putting myself out there, I'm not just putting myself out there for people who I don't know or people who I don't think could pass on the message I have. And the same thing that I use my platform for. I tell everybody, come on my podcast. It's your episode. It's my podcast. Don't get me
Exactly.
wrong. I'm going to ask
Exactly.
my questions, but I'm going to pass on your message. I try not to interject too much, but sometimes you got to, or you ask great questions. Like you guys have asked some great questions. It really goes back to looking for those people. It's intention, right? The intention. When we wanted to get better, nothing was gonna make either one of you stop trying to hurt yourselves until you decided to make that choice. There's nothing
Mhm.
in the world that can happen. I'm not gonna tell anybody, "Hey, meet Dave and your life will change." Yes, I will change lives, but it's also because you're gonna hear me differently. I'm gonna bring the bat. I'm gonna tell you in a New York way type of way that you're gonna hear about it. Those are the things that we're here, that we have that responsibility, and I love talking to people, hearing their story, because even
Mhm.
though, some one of my friends were like, "They're all the same type of person." I'm like, "Yeah, but they're all stories differently." I don't know what's gonna resonate. I might not resonate with anybody in your audience, or I might resonate with one person and change their life, and because of that, their life has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
the same way I am too, Dave. I always tell people though when I'm in my space, the same space too. I'm like, when you hit record, you don't know where this story is going to go. I had a woman this past season I had done. I invited her for a different reason, and then she started talking her own story, and I was like, oh, here we go for 57 minutes. We were going through a roller coaster, man. We're going up, down, left, right. I'm like, where are we going with this thing? And she's like, at the end of it, she's like, well, wait, we didn't talk about what I do. I'm like, I got to tap after 57 minutes of this conversation. I'm like, I got to take a break. This is a lot to deal with because like
Yeah.
these stories, they get intense, you know? And I'm the same way though, too, when I invite people, people always ask me the same questions, like, what is it going to be out? You, that's the whole reason I invited you here, what you're doing, you know? And I usually just lay it out like, the first 15 minutes we'll talk about you. And then if, you're there with, you publish a book or something, we'll talk about the book. And I try to keep it going for them, because it's not about me. It's just I'm there with them. I am letting them talk and letting them be heard. And other
Mhm.
people that have just come in to share their stories, it's like I let them know, like, listen, if at any point in this conversation you feel like something you don't want to talk about, just let me know and we'll change it instantly. Which I learned over time how to switch on the dime because I'm like, when you get into these conversations, sometimes you got to take over. And I've
Yep.
had a few people on there. It was just like you're pulling teeth. It's like I'm here to interview you and you don't want to talk about yourself. This is really strange. Like that's the whole point. I want to highlight what you're doing. That's why I invited you to come here so people can find out the other things you're doing, and things like that. And I've had a few that were like that and it's like you do know how an interview works, right? That you want to think in your head, you're thinking, how an
I
interview works,
yeah.
right? Like, come on now.
Yeah, I love the type of interviews that there's still so much more. I
Yep.
just finished an interview with somebody, and he was like, "Man, I didn't even talk about why I came on," but we had a great, hour conversation, and you just don't know where it goes. It's
Exactly.
at that moment that I'm like, "Look, you can come back." I don't ever,
Definitely.
anybody, I don't think there's anybody actually in the 180 episodes that are out. I don't think there's been anybody that I wouldn't re-invite back out there and to talk about their message. So it's one of those things. The right message goes out that day. That's why I never know which way it's going to go, and I'm really glad how it goes. And when I get to talk about mental wellness with you guys, so I appreciate that so much.
Hey, no
That
problem.
day because
Yeah,
somebody
definitely.
definitely needs to hear it, even if they've heard it a million times. They need to know that it's this random dude from New York. It's not just somebody, where you guys live. We're all over. We're all the same person, just in different, forms.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
know
100%.
we are kind of hitting that hour mark, so unfortunately, I do need to kind of
Yep.
shut it down a little bit. But
Hmm.
tell, if you could, David, tell everybody where we can find you. And I know I'm gonna link, your links into this also. But where can anybody listening locate you?
Well, the greatest thing is my last name Chametsky. There aren't too many of us out there. So Dave Chametsky. I might be the only Dave Chametsky in the world. So it's my website. Check me out on social media. I've used that. I'm pretty easy. Google search. You'll definitely find. Um, you can find me very easily.
Okay. And then Pete, you want to put your stuff out there?
Well, you guys want to find me? I'm on TikTok all the way down to X. I'm on Spotify, all the on the Pandora Radio. Yeah, I'm pretty much accessible, just like Dave. Man, you can Google me. I show up. It's great. I thought that was funny too, Dave. We did that. We did an episode. Somebody they told me, "Did you know you can Google yourself?" Get the hell out of here. I was so fascinated for that whole episode. That's all we were talking about. Man, I can Google myself. Oh, this is so cool. And then I found out I show up on ChatGPT as well. I was like, that's it. I had a high note. I was like, all right, hell yeah, let's go. Well, all right, okay.
Oh
And
yeah,
people's
you
like, where
know,
can I
you
find your podcast? Just Google me. You'll find me. I'll show up somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's the same with mine, except there's a famous author out there that's named David Shannon. So if you Google me, you'll either come up with my stuff or you'll come up with the author that wrote a bunch of books. And it's like, I wish I had his clout because I mean, I've written one book and yeah, it hasn't really made its rounds yet. So, but I
But you
want
wrote
to
a book.
thank you
That's
for,
more than most people can say.
but oh, thanks. But I want to thank you for coming on. Yeah, you definitely anytime you wanna come back on, you got anything new that you want, I'd love to have you on. Um, and I have a feeling Pete's probably the same way on this, because with Pete's
Yep.
show, you would work really well with him on his show also, because his is Pete versus Anxiety, so he's got
uh,
a lot of amazing guests on there too, so
yeah, Pete, be more than happy to talk about him.
Heck
And
yeah.
again, this is one of those passions. So just keep me connected. And once you guys are connected to me, I any way I could support you guys, definitely help out.
Definitely. Love it. Love it.
cool. I'm gonna run the end credits real quick, and then I'll stop recording if make sure this works.